Hello everyone and welcome back to One Autistic Person. This is the 17th video in a 50 video series that I'm doing going through the statements and questions in the Autism Quotient. The Autism Quotient is a questionnaire that is often used as part of the diagnosis process and to do pre-screening for the assessments for autism. As part of the process, the people who are doing the diagnosis and the assessment need to look at things as a deficit. And what I wanted to do with these videos was for me to say how I look at them, these things as either a benefit or a positive rather than a negative. Or if there is not really a way that I see it as a positive or a negative, positive or a benefit, should I say, sorry, then what I do to mitigate that or to put adjustments in place for myself in relation to them. So that's what these videos are all about, and I'd love for people to interact with them and sort of say what they do, especially with this one, because this one I do struggle a lot with. So it'd be really interesting to hear what other people have got to say about it. So this is the 17th question, as I said, and it's the statement, sorry, is I enjoy social chit-chat. And for me, that's a definitely disagree. I find it extremely difficult to keep up with social chit-chat. I can do it, but it is extremely taxing on me. I feel extremely drained after any kind of social chit-chat situation. And I was thinking about the reasons why this is for me personally, and I think there's a few different reasons why it is. One being I just don't know what to say back to somebody, and I quite often will be in the middle of a chat situation with somebody, and suddenly it stops and I don't know how to continue it, and I then feel really overwhelmed, and then I start trying to think about what I should be saying, and then it just feels like a really forced discussion. Or well, it isn't really a discussion, just a forced chat. The other thing is that for me personally, I feel like my brain works on either sharing or receiving information that is of use to me, or is of use to the other person. So I like sharing information with somebody so that they can use that information, that they can do something with it, that there is a wider benefit to it. And I feel like the stuff that quite often is talked about in social chit-chat kind of isn't, and it's quite often talking about things that I don't know much about or have no interest in, and I really struggle to focus on things that I don't have a huge amount of interest in. I try, but it's really, really difficult for me to do that, and I feel like there's no point in it quite often for me, because I don't feel a benefit from social chit-chat. I don't feel like I get to know somebody better because of it necessarily. I don't feel like it benefits either person in it, although I know that is incorrect, and this is where things are slightly different. For other people, it can potentially be that social chit-chat is absolutely necessary for building a bond with somebody. Now, for me, to have a bond, to feel a bond with somebody, I have to talk about things that will, as I say, that there is some use for that information. So I feel a bond when I'm talking about things that I have a special interest in, for instance, or something that gives me more knowledge of the world. I like to learn and I like to teach, so and I like to train and I like to develop people and I like to coach people. So that's all about having information that my mind sees as useful. Bits of information about a person's life, and my brain just doesn't see it as important, so it kind of wanders off, and I think that's where it comes from. What I've done recently is try to think about it because what I thought to myself is, if I can see that there is a purpose for this for the other person, then I should be able to hopefully be better at it, because I'll be able to, because the things quite often that people are talking about, that when I say there are things that I don't know about, it's like when people want to talk about football and things like that, I have no idea. But people talking about their family and stuff like that, even though it has no in my head, in my mind, the way that my brain works, it can't find a purpose for it. So therefore, I struggle to retain that information or even really often process it. What I started to realise is actually the other person is building a bond with me over that, which allows me to somewhat allow me to have a bit more social chit chat with people, because of the fact that it is benefiting that relationship and I want a relationship with that person. And if I actively think about that being the reason for social chit chat, this is to empathize with the other person, that they need this to feel that bond, I can often find myself not necessarily being good at it and certainly not enjoying it, but it's more that I can see the benefit to it, I can see a reason for it, and I can see that if I do it, then it will benefit the relationship that I'm trying to build. And if I'm in a situation where I'm willing to have to work that hard with it, then there is a reason why I want to build that bond, whether it's a work relationship or it's a potential friendship or anything like that, any of the potential situations you're in when you've got social chit chat. I just find it very overwhelming, and that's the only problem that I don't seem to be able to get past, is that I find the fact that it is a social interaction quite jarring and difficult for me to understand what to say next, but also the fact that I'm always overthinking how I'm going to respond to something. Have I given enough information? Because I quite often feel like, or have I given a big enough response? Or have I given way too much of a response? Or have I offered to give somebody advice when they didn't really ask for it? Because that happens quite often with social chit chat. Somebody will tell me something about their life and I'll go into trying to solve a problem that somebody's telling me about, and actually they don't want a solution to it. They just want to offload and say something. And I never know when somebody wants advice and when they don't. What I've found with that is I now ask, did you need support with that? Did you want me to give my opinion on it? The other thing as well is I often feel like I say, I'm not giving enough information, so or I'm not giving a big enough response. So I'll just go, yeah, and then not really know what to say next. So I then get mental block of overthinking the fact of, well, I should have said something, and I should have said something, and then nothing will come to my mind at all to know. And that happens has happened quite regularly for me. So yeah, and I have the issue as well where I will unintentionally make the situation about me, and I so don't mean to do it. And I think it comes from a place, from what I can understand from research that I've done, it kind of comes from a place that a lot of autistic people or some autistic people, and certainly this is the way that I feel about it, is that I have spent my life trying to fit in, trying to find connections with people and trying to find ways to do it, that my brain automatically goes to, oh, that's a shared experience, tell them about your experience of it. And quite often that can be seen as me overtaking the conversation. It's me being in control of the conversation. So what I've tended to do is step back a little bit and go, oh, that's really interesting, tell me more about it, and sort of allow them to speak more, because I can quite easily go into a monologue and just accidentally overtake the conversation. Absolutely no want to do so, but I know that I can do that. So I am sort of making sure that I have questions that I can go in with, where I say, can you tell me more about that? Oh, that's really interesting. So that they know that I am interested, because for me, the response of me giving them my version of this is me showing interest, but actually what I'm doing is often just stopping the conversation, because the person gets fed up of what I'm saying, because I'm not stopping to let them have their back and their forth or back and forth. I don't know which way you would put it, but their input into the conversation, which is another problem that I have, is that I just miss the back and forth, because I'm like, oh, really need to talk about this, and there's so many things that I want to say in my head. That it stops being social chit chat so much and sort of turns more into me monologuing at somebody or talking at somebody, and it's not quite often until I'm way into it that I realise I've done that. Whereas I found asking the questions and allowing the person to speak to you more first, and then going into what you want to say, if you're able to do it, really does help with that person understanding the fact that you do empathise with them, that you do, because we do obviously have that empathy. It just comes across in a different way. The way I empathise with people is to tell my story, which seems like selfishness, which then doesn't look like empathy. So Yeah, with this one, that's what I found is working for me, is just making sure that I ask the questions first and listen to what they've got to say, and then when they've said what they need or what they want to say about it, then I can come in with what I need to say. And if I end up monologuing, they've said quite a bit first already, so there's kind of that understanding of the fact that they've gone first, and I'm not overtaking the conversation as I can accidentally do. So that's my thing on social chit chat. That's the 17th video in this series. I'd really like it if people would comment on these to let each other know what they do in these situations. And this one would be a good one for me to learn from as well, because I do struggle with this one quite considerably. So any comments would be fantastic for people to discuss what they do. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.